Here we go. As stated, my name is Spenser Skates. I'm CEO and co-founder of Amplitude Analytics. Here to talk today about how you can turn analytics into growth. We're also out back later if you want to come talk to me or anyone else from the team. So let's go ahead and dive into it. There's three things I wanted to cover today, and that's a lot, but the first is how we think about analytics in general. The second is I want to teach you about a concept called behavioral cohorting, and the third is I want to walk through an example of that and how you can use that to turn that into retention, into growth for your application. So analytics, the way we think about analytics is most of you are probably familiar with what I call counters, and that's where people get started. So this is things like DAU, MAU, revenue, page views, understanding a barometer of your business and where you're at. In the past 6 or 7 years, there's been a second generation of tools that identify where your problems are. So this is things like a conversion funnel, where users are getting stuck, or retention analysis, are people coming back day to day? This is where most of you are today. But that's great that we know where our problems are, but how can we fix them? How can we increase our retention or increase our conversion? So I want to talk to you about a famous study that Facebook had where they wanted to understand what was it that led to long-term retention. So they looked at a bunch of different things. They looked at what percentage of their profile someone completed. They looked at whether someone posted on someone's wall. They looked at what applications they used. And they found by far the most predictive of whether someone retained was whether how many friends they added. If they added 7 or more friends, they were extremely likely to retain. So that sort of analysis, that's called behavioral cohorting. And that's ultimately one of the tools in what I think of as the third level of analytics, what can drive growth. So let me explain to you what behavioral cohorting is. Behavioral cohorting allows, you guys are probably used to acquisition date cohorts, where you look at users from when they started. So the users who started in a particular month or week. Behavioral cohorts are all about grouping your users by what actions they've taken on your website. So how are behavioral cohorts applicable to leading you to growth? So first, the idea is you come up with a hypothesis on what sort of actions lead to someone to retain within your application. The second is you test the hypothesis by walking through specific actions, and the third is you look at how that impacts retention. So let's take a social music app, and there are 2 key actions we want to look at here. The first is joining a community, and the second is completing a profile. We want to see how whether doing these actions impact retention. So first, let's create a behavioral cohort. So here we're creating a group of users. You can do this here or in SQL. We're looking at users who have joined at least one community within the first day of use. So we're creating that group of users that have done that behavior. Then we take that cohort and apply that to a retention analysis. So on the top, that's the blue line. Those are users who have joined a community, and that's what their retention looks like over 30 days. And then on the bottom, that's users who did not join one community. So as we can see, users who join a community, higher retention than users who don't. Now we can repeat that process for the other behavior we want to look at, completing a user profile. So let's go ahead, step back and do the same analysis again. So first up, create a behavioral cohort based on the user profile. Sorry, the timing, normally I get a clock in front of me, but I didn't get it this time. Anyway, so you create a you create a group of users based on whether they've created a profile within your application, and then you apply that to retention analysis. So in the top graph, in the top line, you see the green, which is users who have completed a profile and what their retention looks like. Okay, obviously better than users who did not complete a profile on their first day. Okay, so that's great. So now we know both completing a profile and joining a community both lead to higher long-term retention. But so what? Okay, we want users to do both. Well, which is more important to long-term retention? So let's take both of those cohorts and apply them to a graph. So this is that graph. So on the blue line, that's users who joined a community. On the green line, that's users who completed a profile. And the yellow and red lines are users who did not do those actions. As you can see, users who joined a community have the highest retention and much higher retention than users who completed a profile or didn't do either of those. So what's the takeaway from a product perspective? We want to focus users on joining a community and take out things about adding a profile during the onboarding process. And that's how we can get users to retain better, right? We can get 2 or 4x their retention by getting them to do that. So behavioral cohorting is a good way where you create a group of users, apply that analysis to retention, and then figure out from a product perspective what the priorities are. Anyway, hope that was educational. Thanks again. As I said, we'll be out back, and I'm going to save you 5 seconds.